Milo Ventimiglia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. Happy to be here, man.
It is great to be you right now. Congratulations on the Emmy nomination.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
How's it feel?
You know, to be really honest, I didn't think it was coming my way this year.
Really?
I promise you, I didn't. There are so many shows out there, and there are so many great actors that I admire, that I'm a fan of, that I was like, the field's too big. I said, it didn't feel like there was room. So yeah, when it happened, I was surprised. I was grateful, and also excited for the team that puts Jack together. You know, for me, I'm 1/10 of the team. I'm just one part of it, and I've got to represent that team. But for me, it's everybody that contributes, from the actors to the writers to the hair and makeup to the wardrobe to post-production. I mean, it goes on and on. But I'm proud to represent that group of people.
What do awards nominations mean for you? Do you immediately go back to the moments in your career which weren't so rose gold and easy, and fun, and the darker kind of moments in between career, trying to figure this out, this volatile nature of the business? Do you think back to them as kind of like validation? Or?
I don't reflect so much, but awards have a way of diminishing the hard work of those that aren't recognized. And in that, I never needed it to put in the work. It wasn't the end goal. It wasn't you don't do the work to get nominated. You do the work because the work is important, because that art that you're putting into this character, that life you're putting in this character, is going to hopefully entertain an audience or make an audience learn something or make them feel something. So for me, I think if awards are over here, I kind of dip that way and go into, well, what am I doing for the audience?
Right.
What's that experience? That to me feels more satisfying.
I have to
and
ask,
awards are funny too, because they're like, if you get nominated, you're like stoked to be a part of it. If you don't get nominated, you're like, oh man, screw them. So it's a weird thing. I'm always grateful to be part of the conversation.
I have to ask because I don't think I'll ever get nominated for anything ever. Full stop. End of story. Listen, you've also got a movie opening this weekend.
Yes.
The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Anyone that takes a look at the trailer, it's you and a beautiful dog. That's
Yeah.
your co-star, right? Throughout the film?
Yeah. We had a couple dogs. We had a couple pooches that were playing the different ages of Enzo. We had our 9-year-old Butler, and we had our 2-year-old Parker. Both very, very different dogs, just like different actors.
No, come on. You say that, but what do you mean?
What I mean is Butler he's 9, but he had crazy energy and would only mind you with regards to food.
Okay.
Where Parker, who's the 2-year-old, was very emotional, and emotional in a way where he was picking up on what was around him. So if I was performing a scene where I was stressed and worried about my daughter, my wife, my racing, anything like that, he would pick up on it. And he would be a little uncertain about the elements around because he was picking up off of my energy. And so I literally, before every take, would have to talk to him, like me to him in his ear. Even though he's getting direction from his trainers, I would just have to also kind of like, hey buddy, I'm gonna be a little upset, but I love you. Don't worry about it. We're gonna do great. So just go along with what I'm doing. Yeah. So.
Talk to me, when you take a role like this, they've got to check, are you a dog person first, right?
Oh, yeah.
First of all, you got to check allergies, because that's not going to work out. Second, are you a dog guy? Were you a dog guy?
I've always loved dogs. I don't have a dog, but I love them. I mean,
they say don't work with kids and don't work with animals.
Oh man, that happens to me all the time for the past couple of years. Yeah, no, dogs and animals. I think that's my thing.
What was the most impressive thing you saw from the dogs you worked with? Because I've heard these dogs are just. I've heard about the stage horses, right? The horses know how to hit their mark, find the light. What impressed you about these dogs?
How well they were able to connect to me emotionally in a scene.
In what way?
What I said to the trainers when we first spoke about the process, because they have a process, a very specific process that you almost can't distract the animals from hitting their marks. But what I said to the trainers was, I need a scene partner. I need to be able to look this dog in the eye and know that I, as the character, this is truly my best friend, and I need to feel that back from them. So it took a lot. I pretty much became like the fifth trainer on set, and I was the only one allowed to really interact with any of the dogs just for continuity, so that when they were off leash or anything in the scene, they would listen to me. They would have their direction from their trainers, but they'd interact with me. So for me, when they were able to tap into the emotions, when Butler was able to lay still when we needed him to lay still as an older dog, or when Parker was, really kind of looking at me in moments where I needed him, it was beautiful. It's like they're instinctual, so they pick up on the instincts, and I think it was as real for them as it was for me when the cameras were rolling.
But then camera stops, and I'm sure the dogs at points remind you that they're just dogs as well, right?
Yeah, puppies especially, because then you're covered in everything puppy. So.
But that's the part of the bonding experience.
Yeah,
right
totally,
there.
totally.
It's funny to think back to films. At IMDb, we have a rich history of, we love film, and so many times animals can steal the scene.
Absolutely.
Thinking back, some of my favorite films, Turner and Hooch.
Yeah.
I used to love that. The Beethoven
Yeah.
movies. Did you have any personal favorites?
Growing up with dogs, man.
Or any animal? For me, the Hangover monkey deserves like an Oscar at some point.
That was pretty great. I don't know that I have a favorite. But I almost feel like, yeah, man, I don't have a favorite right now. I'm sorry.
Talk to me about in this movie, you actually are playing a race car driver, and that's the very cool part for anyone getting the script.
Yeah.
You get to drive the cars?
No, absolutely not.
For real?
For real, they wouldn't let me. It's like playing a heroin addict and they won't let you push the drug.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, look, race cars are dangerous, and it takes a very, very, very particular level of expertise. It wasn't without want. Like there were moments where I was inside of a Porsche GT with Wright Motor Racing, and the cars on this track, which was closed for us, it was actually in first gear. All I had to do was just hit the gas. And I just kind of kept my feet tucked up and got in and out of the car for this shot we were doing. And I mean, I wanted to, I would have loved to have, but also the discipline and the focus it takes to be a professional racing driver. I'm an actor. I'm the face guy. I'm the guy that gets to do the emotions of it. But if they gave me a chance to like really let loose on a track with an F1 car, I would have absolutely 100% done it.
What is it? You've had such a great career. What was it about this project that you personally were drawn towards?
It felt like a continuation of the work that I've done on This Is Us.
Go on.
It was an emotional story. It was a hopeful story. It was a challenging story, but it was also kind of built for everyone. There was something magical about a man's journey with their animal.
Okay.
And how that extends to the rest of the family, in having a wife or having a kid. We can all relate to that. Husbands, wives, daughters, sons, mothers, fathers, animal owners. There was something that with this script, based on this book, this great Garth Stein book, it felt like it was for everyone. And everybody could apply it to their own lives. It felt right. It felt more of what we need in the world, which is commonality and together as opposed to separation.
I think anytime I see a movie, especially in the trailer where you have a golden retriever and you in it, I'm like, this is going to be an emotional roller coaster. I need to go prep with Kleenex in my pocket.
Emotional, but hopeful.
Okay, good.
And that's the thing that I like to remind people of. It's a hopeful story. We're always, all of us, constantly going to get beat up by life and its surroundings and its trappings, but also there's got to be hope in it, and there's got to be that joy and that pure love, especially in this one, that is the bond between dog and owner. But even more importantly, like one thing that Simon Curtis and I, our director, would talk about was being a father, being a husband, then being a dog owner, and then being an auto racer. So it kind of, we went the emotional route before we went the technical route. And it was really just a beautiful experience.
And always the fun thing with movies like this when the animals have a voice is
Totally.
who does the voice.
Oh, yeah.
And in the trailer, this voice is instantaneously recognizable for me,
Yeah.
having grown up one of my favorite actors, currently on Yellowstone, but he will always be Robin Hood in my eyes.
Oh man, so he's Ray from Field of Dreams in mine.
Oh yeah? So
Reconcile.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I'm assuming you guys didn't get a chance to work
Still have never met him to this day.
Never?
Never, ever, ever.
You should put that in your writer.
No,
Like,
I mean, it was one of those things too. Because when you're filming, and the timing of the scene work, we need to know when the dog is having its thoughts and its emotions and its conversation for the audience, but yet I can't hear that.
right.
So we tested out this idea. Well, is Kevin going to read it before? Are we going to have someone else read it on set? What are we going to do? And what we ended up deciding on was our script supervisor would sit behind the monitor with our director, and I would just pause and just keep living life as I'm sitting there with my dog, and they would read it for themselves, and then our director Simon would call action again, and that would cue me to go on to whatever next I needed to say or what I needed to do.
Okay.
So it was like kind of a technical dance,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I didn't have Kevin's voice in my ear when we were filming, none of that.
I see a Field of Dreams. I ante up. I go for The Bodyguard.
Oh, that's a good
That was
one.
another great film as well. Give me one final thing on this movie. What is something, like everyone that sits there always tells me they learn something from the projects that they're in. What did you learn about acting through this?
Actually, I learned it from Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah.
Completely giving yourself to a role. It wasn't that her work on the film was so beautiful. It wasn't that I believed what she was doing. It's that she believed what she was experiencing for the character. And that took the level of acting just up so much higher than I'd ever considered. It wasn't about anyone else believing what I'm doing. It's about me believing what I'm doing. And I learned that from Amanda.
Great.
Yeah.
This Is Us. I'm
Okay.
sure a show that you have learned a great deal from playing Jack Pearson. Again, congratulations on that Emmy nomination.
Thank you.
It's the third time
Yeah.
that you've been nominated.
My dad, I talked to my mom and dad this morning about it.
Are they the first people you call?
No, actually, the first person I usually talk to is Russ Cundiff, my partner in my company. And he was crying again, as he usually does.
Even the third time?
Even the third time, man, he called me crying. Well, he's the guy who's there if I get kicked in the teeth, and he's
Right.
also the guy who's there to celebrate.
Yeah.
But no, I talked to my mom and dad, and my dad, he said, well, the first one could have been a fluke. Second one, pretty good. But the third one, he said, that's how you know you're good at what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What changes in your mindset? Because like you said, there's been a first time, a second time, and third time. Thinking back to your first time going and your second time and now this time going up, does anything change for you from your kind of self looking outward into the event?
Into the event, no, I'm excited. I always get excited to see friends that I don't get to see all the time.
Right.
Like if I'm bumping into Nicole Kidman, we did a movie several years ago, and I
Right.
see Nicole, it's like, oh, hey, Nicole, that may be the only time I get to see her is at these big award shows. Or any of the people that I've collected as friends in the last 24 years of being in front of the camera. But for me, the actual work is impacted. It makes me want to do even better. It makes me want to go even deeper. It makes me want to engage in the characters even more than I already do because the work is that much more important. There's just something about people saying, hey, you're a part of this, what we're saying is an elite group. And I look at that and go, I still need to do better.
What's the biggest blessing Jack Pearson, the character, has given you in your career?
Simplicity, maybe?
What do you mean?
Jack's a simple guy. He loves his wife, he loves his kids, he tries to live very uncomplicated. I say this a lot, he's not without his mistakes and his problems, but also I think Jack tries to keep things very, very simple. Life, even in my life, can get big and loud and being pulled in a million directions. So I just try and scale things down as simply as I can and just not get too far ahead of myself, not sit too far in the past, be very present, and yeah, live as simply as I can.
This Is Us. I remember watching it. Chris Sullivan came in, one of our
Yeah.
early, like season one, one of our guests, and
So
came in.
stoked for Sully. Sorry for forgiving the language. Sorry guys,
All good.
I love Sully.
He would approve.
Oh yeah.
He would approve of
Yeah.
that. What a great guy. You know, I ended up watching the whole show. I'll never forget the scene where, you know, Jack admits to going back on the bottle for the first time.
Yeah.
And Manny Moore's character turns around to him and says, just takes him home. You know,
Yeah.
I love that moment. That was really special.
Yeah.
And Jack, for being such a simple guy, you see that vulnerability in him.
Yeah.
That's
That also we got to give a shout out to Ken Olin, who directed that episode, and Dan Fogelman, who wrote that episode. Like without those words and without that direction, that Jack Rebecca dynamic is different. I don't think it's as great. It's just different. Actually, not even saying as great is diminishing other contributing people, but it's just there's something about that combination and those two guys in particular. They're amazing contributors to them.
It's weird in a world where we have so many shows with capes and superheroes and magic and
Jack's
all
a
that.
real life superhero though.
Real life superhero.
He's an
and
attainable superhero.
Is that the magic of This Is Us?
I think that's maybe the magic of Jack. He's an attainable superhero. I can't tell you how many people I have, men walking up to me and say, I want to be a better father because of Jack. I want to be a better husband because of Jack. Or even women saying, you know, my husband is the real Jack Pearson.
Right.
And stuff like that to me is like, oh, that's great. He is inspiring real superheroes, attainable hero status because, you know, flight, we need planes, helicopters, wings. But what he's able to accomplish with his family and his kids, like that's the stuff we can all aspire to be.
Season 4
Yeah.
is set to premiere in September.
Yeah.
It's being written that we're going to see Jack and Rebecca's pre-kids days.
Yeah, more of it.
First of all, for a dead guy, you're getting a lot of screen time, so I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on there.
Yeah, no, it's a great job. I'm just you know happy it wasn't off with his head, Ned Stark, at the beginning of the season.
But you keep coming back. I mean, you're back.
Yeah, no, I'm back. And Dan Fogelman, our creator, he said to me, he said, "Mai, don't worry. Even though I knew my character was deceased in the present day, I'm still in the show all the way up to the very last moments." But that's the greatness of the show. It's reflecting. It's taking the life from the past and the life from the present and now even the life from the future
Right.
and tying them all together. And you know that where your parents came from is still impacting you, and you yourself are going to impact your children and those around you. I think it's again a valuable, inspirational place to be with those of us that aren't around anymore.
What can you tell us about where we're going in season 4?
Man, so far what I've known and have seen, it is the younger romance of Jack and Rebecca. Because if you think about the timeline, Jack was 1979. 1973. He was 29 when they met, and they didn't have kids until he was 36. So that's 7 years of time where they've got a lot of life to live before the big 3 pop out.
Right. And that's where all that real bonding would have taken place, because they're so strong when the 3 pop out. So all that history.
Exactly.
I see an issue though, because you in real life are aging every year, right? We all do.
Sure.
But in the TV show, we're going back.
Oh, yeah.
So how are you doing that? What's going on?
Amazing hair and makeup team.
That's what it is.
A lot of water. And we have an amazing post-effects group.
Are they really? Are they de-aging?
Oh, yeah,
we see it now in movies a lot more.
You know, listen, I've earned these lines and stuff over, the last 42 years. I can't just put them on mute, but we all work in conjunction together, Zoe Haya and our prosthetics teams, and then Nick Pavinati and our post-production teams. We're all working together, and I try not to raise my eyebrows
Right.
to
Don't
get rid of
too
frown
much.
lines. And honestly, sometimes when I go to bed, I'm so full of patches and the night before I film my earlier, younger scenes that I wake up and I'm like, man, I got a sticky forehead patch on my hand and a crumpled up set of iPads on the bedside table. So
You're looking great for 42, you said?
42, yeah.
Man. It's kind of like, do you remember Friends? They were always playing,
Oh, yeah.
younger than they were.
Yeah, no,
at
I
all
know.
times, like
Yeah.
Dawson's Creek. It's
Well,
like,
Dan Fogelman said something nice the other day. He said, "I'm working with Benjamin Button."
yeah,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mandy Moore for a second. I got to interview her in another life that I had when she was doing music.
Yeah.
It's so rare that you find such big pop stars and musicians that can actually successfully transition into becoming regarded as real deal actors.
Yeah.
She's one of them.
Yeah.
Talk to me about working with her. Talk to me the first day you met her.
The first day I met her was at the test for This Is Us. I was there with 2 other potential Rebeccas, and Mandy and I literally shook hands, and we dove into a scene together.
Just like that?
Just like that. And it, I mean, my lips were buried in her neck, performing the opening scene of the show, and it was evident to everybody in the room that she was Rebecca Pearson. And that dynamic, and also what she brought out of me was a different version of Jack than anybody else that I had read with.
In what way? What would have Jack been, and what did she bring out of you for Jack?
Maybe a truth. I think maybe a truth to the character.
Can you define that a little bit more?
I think Mandy and I just kind of locked eyes, and that, without sounding cheesy, I feel like the love of the characters was immediately formed. And it wasn't to be intellectualized, it wasn't to be even discussed or talked about. But I think she saw it, and I think I saw it. And then Fogelman and John Requa and Glenn Ficarra, our directors for the episode, they saw it. And once we all kind of finished, and Mandy literally as politely as she is, hey, she just literally shook my hand, got up and left, and I was like, dude, she just dropped the mic on the whole scene. And I kind of looked at everyone like, holy, like she's I think she's the one.
Tell me something that we would be surprised to know about Mandy Moore that surprised you.
Gosh, I don't know, man. She's I think as earnest as she comes across, I think she does have a darker side and darker like sensibility that comes out in rare moments. But she really is just one of the most like lovely people to be around. Work aside, she's a beast when it comes to the work. She's putting in the time beforehand. She's working at it. I mean, her nomination this year, I think her, Chris Sullivan, Michael Angarano, like those to me were, I had the biggest celebration in because they put the work in. She puts the work in. And her work, I get that front row seat every single time. I get to receive what she's doing on the other end of her acting, and it feels real.
By the way, what a great cast to go to the Emmys with.
Yeah, totally.
First of all, the biggest cast probably out of everybody.
I think so,
it's a lot of you,
I don't
for
know.
Sure.
Game of Thrones, I feel like there's got to be a ton there.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But still.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Heroes.
Okay.
Yeah, this show came out back in 2006. It was huge.
Massive.
Hit.
Yeah.
Massive. In many ways, it was doing things way ahead of its time.
I think so, yeah.
Go on, let's talk about it. What was Heroes doing that was ultra special back then and still keeps it so popular now?
There were superheroes, I think at that point, were in a cape, in a cowl. They were kind of hyper mythic.
Yeah.
And they came from the comic book world. Having this group of people who are discovering that they are not like anybody else, I think that actually transcended the superhero culture, and again kind of let people know, hey, we are unique in who we are as individuals, and we can overcome, and we can come together in our differences too, and do something great. So, and I think we weren't really seeing that on television specifically. No. And I remember when we were shooting the pilot and just the stunts that we were doing and everything that was going on, I was like, I don't know, this feels really big.
Had a big budget,
We did have a big budget for...
which was rare. We hadn't really seen it. Lost had
Yeah.
kind of, we'd seen that there, but we were talking a lot of
Yeah,
money
no,
for
no,
that.
yeah,
and money well
millions,
spent.
millions of dollars,
Yeah.
yeah, and money well spent. And then I think even when we went into series, like our per episode budgets were pretty significant. But I mean, you know, we were flying and walking through walls, and it was...
And it wasn't done cheesy.
No.
I remember watching it firsthand and being like, whoa, this is sort of stuff that I would see in movie cinemas.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I think we all knew that on the show, that we now had a responsibility to make it good and inventive, because we were starting that trend in television of superhero that was up to snuff with what feature films were doing.
Right.
So, yeah.
We've currently got all 4 seasons on IMDb TV, hugely popular TV show. When you think back to that, let me take you back on the therapist chair. What is your favorite moment playing Peter?
One of my favorite moments actually was probably one of the saddest moments for Peter. It was when...
Why you have to do that? I'm here looking for like some moment of elation, to laugh and share a laugh. You have to always take it, this is our cycle. I'm kidding.
That's where I'm at in my life right now, man.
I'm a tormented soul.
Bring a box of tissues. No, actually, it was the moment where Peter had to let Nathan go. So they're on the edge of the building, and Peter's holding his brother, and he has to let him go. But the funny thing was, Adrian and I both had tears in our eyes, and I'm over him, and we're delivering these lines, and it's slipping, and right at the last minute before he lets go, 2 tears fall out of my eyes, and they land right in his eyes. And then he drops, and I remember just like sobbing, and then afterward, we were just laughing, and he goes, brother, you're in me forever now.
Right.
You know, and it was just like, oh, that weight, that heaviness of oh wow, what we were able to accomplish with these characters is going to be with the 2 of us forever, and of course on screen now.
It's funny, it reminds me of what your dad said to you. It's like going once, twice, and 3 times as heroes. This is us.
Yeah, I need a new show at 50 years old with NBC.
I'm sure it's
because I was 30 when I
yeah.
did Heroes. I was 40s
Yeah.
when I do This Is Us. I need something in my 50s with
It'll
NBC.
come for sure. Well, one of the best things for anyone that hasn't seen it, or people that just want to relive it, all 4 seasons of Heroes are available on IMDb TV for free.
Which is awesome.
I often run down my guest's IMDb page and I pick out little things that meant a great deal to me.
Okay.
Your first ever IMDb credit was party guest number 1 on
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
one of the best shows ever.
One of the best shows ever. I mean, when I got that job, I was freaking out. I remember
How old were you?
I was 18 years old. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Westwood, going to school at UCLA, waiting tables, working at a snowboard shop, and auditioning while I was building sets, hanging lights, and sewing costumes for the theater department. And I went and auditioned, and I got the job. And I was sharing a room with one of my friends from childhood, Aaron Steger. And I remember getting the call, and I woke up, and I told him, and we freaked out. And then I think we went and bought a TV for the apartment.
Without even getting the job done.
No. I was like, I'm just going to put it on a credit card because I could pay for it later. So there was that excitement. It was a show that I loved, and I got the job. But then when I was on set, I actually got one of the best lessons I could have ever learned as a younger actor.
From the man?
Which was from the man, Will Smith, which is how you treat your crew and your cast.
Go on.
He treated everybody with such respect and dignity, and it didn't matter if you were cutting the sandwiches or operating the camera or speaking the lines. Everybody on that crew was valued and deserved to be there and honored for being there. And seeing a movie star like Will Smith talk to a kid who had one line and spend time with me and ask me questions, it was just like, I want to be him.
Right.
I want to be that guy. And that was the best lesson I could have learned.
I'm sure if he's watching this, he'll remember.
Oh no, I don't know if
You've
he
seen
would.
him since?
No, I walked up to him 10 years later when I was on Heroes because one of my co-stars saw him at a party that we were at and said, I just met Will Smith. Oh my God, he loves the show. I beelined to him. I excused myself. I introduced myself. Blank look. And I was just like...
you've changed.
Yeah, no.
No,
I thanked him. I said, hey, I've got my own show. And thank you.
I got to get one more thing in before we hit the
Sure.
watch list. One of my favorite actors, one of my favorite movie series that he's ever done is the Rocky series.
Sure.
Sylvester
Mine too.
Stallone. You are part of that family a couple of times now.
Yeah.
You have, if you list some of the most inspirational speeches from movie history, the Rocky speech from Rocky Balboa in front of you is got to be one of them. Can you, I don't know, take me there on that day? What that scene was like? And
Actually,
what
I
it's like working with
want to take you back before that day.
Go on.
I went to New York to audition for a show called Heroes. And on the train ride back, I'm getting frantic phone calls from his then assistant saying, Milo, where are you? He's waiting for you to rehearse. And my heart just dropped because I didn't know. I didn't know that we'd had a rehearsal set. And so I'm like, I'm on the train. No, I didn't know. You never told. So when we weren't able to rehearse that scene short of Sly and I talking about it in his office a month before. And so the first rehearsal, the first time he and I spoke the words together was on the street the night we were filming, right before. That was the first time. And I mean, he was right there and ready, and I was right there and ready. And that speech, it's one of those speeches that everybody can quote. It's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. And that is the genius of Sylvester Stallone. I mean, those words he actually wrote. I don't know if he wrote them when I was in his office with him months earlier, but they weren't in the script when I was in his office, and he's walking around his office talking about it, and then he says that line, and he stops, and he goes, that's a pretty good line. And he walks to his desk, and he writes it down. And then the next day, it was in the pages, and I was like, holy shit, was I just around for that epic line? And I think I might have been.
It's funny, I think people overlook it, right? Because of the physicality of him, because of characters like Rambo and Expendables, you forget Sylvester Stallone in movies like Copland.
Oh, man.
Right? I mean, that's the actor's actor. I mean, it's an Oscar winner.
He is an Oscar winner. I mean, he's done it for decades. He's incredible. And
he still works, like directs
still
everything.
Works.
He doesn't have to. He still directs.
And he still does it. But that's the thing, like Sly is an artist. He is 100% an artist, and he cares about it. He really, truly cares about the work. If I learned one thing on the set of Balboa, it was that show up and do the work, because he's there doing the work. And if you're not there to show up and do the work, don't even bother coming in.
Man, you just made my day. Let's end the show in the right way, like we always do. Milo, what are you watching at home?
I just banged through 2 seasons of Fleabag.
That's your show?
Yeah, it was great.
You binge watching it?
No, it was amazing.
What do you love about it?
I love the honesty with it, and I love the levity with it. You know, such a dark tone, but also, you know, when you get beyond the psychology of what this woman is going through and understand her history, you know, there is a lightness to it that I feel maybe we could all have a little bit of levity and not take ourselves so seriously. And I think she's a phenomenal writer and performer, and it's just beautiful, and everybody that's a part of that.
Agreed. What else are you into?
I'm kind of into like.
This is where like the guilty pleasures come out.
Totally.
People say it's like therapy.
I'm a little more like documentary kind of guy, like space documentary.
Which sort of documentary?
So, first of all, the Apollo 11, that was film footage from the day 50 years ago this year about the Apollo moon landing.
Right.
From a cinematic film, actual celluloid film geek standpoint, what they captured back then in '69 was incredible. And it's such a beautiful display of the entire mission. And when, as an actor, watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins on camera before they take off, watching their faces, I mean, you're seeing so much on their minds. You see the kind of confidence of Buzz Aldrin, and you see the responsibility of Neil Armstrong, and it's, from a performing standpoint, it's just phenomenal.
And that's with the world watching.
That's with the world watching. I mean, failure, as Gene Kranz, who was Mission Control, said for years, failure is not an option.
Right.
And then another space documentary, The Farthest.
Okay, tell me about this.
It's about Voyagers 1 and 2. So JPL sent some long-range probes to explore our solar system back in the 70s, and they got so much information, but also one little key thing at the very end, Carl Sagan.
Love Carl Sagan.
Who's amazing. He asked for them to turn the cameras back on the solar system just for one last photograph as we were leaving the solar system. And they did it, and they took this photo, and in it, there's nothing. You'd see nothing. And there's kind of these echo lines of, I think, radio static and whatnot. But within one of those echo lines was this tiny, 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 tiny little blue dot. And that was Earth. And that's where Carl Sagan said, I'm going to butcher this, but everyone you love and everyone you've ever known, everyone you've hated is on that little blue dot.
Right.
And just putting that into perspective about our existence and our place and what we could hopefully contribute to make someone's life a little more positive, I think is well said by the great Carl Sagan.
Well said by you. Milo Ventimiglia, thank you so much for being
Thanks,
here
Tim.
on the IMDb show.